Alright boys, builds are back on the menu. I know I slowed down on making build videos toward the end of last season, but come on, by that time just about every build in the game had been found and was widely known. But new season means new unique mods, which means some new builds, and let me tell you, today's build is absolutely incredible. I'm talking clearing a room of ads in seconds, unlimited 30% damage buffs, enemies that can't even shoot back because they're always blind, and it's viable for in-game activities. Yeah, this build has quickly become my new main this season. But before we do get started, you know the drill. If you are new, and only if you enjoy the videos, then be sure to subscribe. Also, my Twitter, please follow it. Okay, let's get into this build. So starting us off, we're going to be taking a look at a subclass I honestly never thought I'd be using in PvE. Besides maybe like doing a bounty or something. Stormcaller, but more specifically, Middle Tree Meme Beam, or Attunement of Control. Now, on the left, we have Chaos Reach, which states unleash a long-range channeled beam of concentrated arc energy. Then on the bottom, we have Ionic Trace, which states defeating enemies has a chance to create Ionic Traces. Collecting Ionic Traces grants energy to all your abilities. Then on the right, we have Pulse Wave, which states being critically wounded triggers an energy wave that boosts your speed and your ally speed. And finally, the big one, Ball Lightning, which states fire an arc projectile that travels forward and releases a perpendicular bolt of lightning. And when I say it's a big one, that's because you literally throw on a sniper scope on your wrist because this thing hits from so far away. Now next up in the build is going to be the brand new exotic helmet, Fellwinter's Helm. I got this bad boy almost as soon as the season dropped, and to be honest, I haven't really taken it off. When I first got it and I started using it, my stream literally made fun of me because they said it was the worst exotic in the game, until I started using this build, and then everyone hushed up real quick. The exotic perk we are looking at here is called Warlord's End, which states a whole lot of stuff, but I'll simplify it down for you. As long as your melee ability is fully charged and you land a kill with it, or you use a finisher on an enemy, then all enemies within a close proximity will become blind and weakened, and by weakened I mean they will take 30% more damage from all sources. Then it states that the more powerful the enemy that you defeat with a finisher or a charged melee, the larger the blast radius of that weakened and blinding effect will be. Meaning enemies farther away from you that wouldn't normally be affected will now be affected. For example, if there is a thrall that you kill in the middle, and then there's, a thrall 2 meters away, but then there's a thrall 7 meters away, well, that thrall 7 meters away is not going to be affected because you killed a low tier enemy, but the thrall 2 meters away will. Now replace that thrall in the middle with, let's say, a yellow bar knight. Well, now the thrall that's 2 meters away from that knight will be affected, and the thrall that's 7 meters away will also be affected. Those numbers are just completely kind of thrown out there off the top of my head, but that's like the best scenario I can give. The higher tier the enemy that you kill, the larger that blast radius that will weaken and blind them will be. Now let's get into the good stuff, the new mods this season. I know Charge with Light mods were good when they were put on very specific builds, but let's be honest, you probably used them for about a day, and then you never use them again, like me. But these mods are actually good. The first mod we're going to be looking at is called Tyrant's Surge, which states dealing damage with arc melee, super, or grenade ability spawns a Warmind Cell. Now remember, I said dealing damage, not defeat. That's going to come in big later on. Now, if you all don't know what Warmind Cells are, well, to keep it short and simple, they are orange balls that drop from enemies only when you have one of the new seasonal artifact mods on that allow them to drop. They are very hard to miss when they do drop, but when you shoot these orange balls, they blow up pretty much. They will kill all low tier ads in the immediate area and will take off quite a big chunk of health from higher tier targets. Now, speaking of Warmind Cells only affecting enemies within the immediate area, let's throw in a mod that will make that immediate area a little bit bigger, make that blast radius a little bit bigger. Meet Global Reach. This mod states Warmind Cells you create affect and damage targets at a greater distance. Now, this mod is only 1 energy point and really helps out when it comes to ad clear, so make sure you put it on. This mod is essential. Now let's take a look at our old friend Thundercoil. Thundercoil was a seasonal mod from way back in Season of the Undying that has returned with Season of the Worthy. This mod states grants bonus damage for all arc melee abilities and refunds super energy on finisher final blows. This is an extremely good mod because we are using an arc subclass that has a arc melee, and our exotic helm requires a melee kill, and Tyrant Surge, the mod, requires melee damage. So why not try to get enough damage to get a kill so we can activate both Tyrant Surge and the exotic helm perk at the same time. You're starting to see where I'm going with this? Good, because we're about to make it even better. Now for the final mod in this build, Hammer of the Warmind. This mod has a really long description, so I'll shorten it down for you a bit. The explosion caused by Warmind Cells will now disrupt overload champions and stagger unstoppable champions if they are hit by the blast, effectively making this build now viable in activities involving those champions, aka in-game activities, nightfalls, stuff like that. Now to top the build off, we're going to be throwing on a 7th Seraph weapon. Now you might be asking why, and the answer is because if you were paying attention to the mods that involved Warmind Cells, you might have noticed that above all of them, they stated defeating a combatant with a 7th Seraph weapon has a chance to drop a Warmind Cell. Now you might be thinking, but it's so easy to get a Warmind Cell to drop as all I have to do is damage an enemy with an arc melee, grenade, or super. And yes, you are right, but hey, extra Warmind Cells can't hurt, so having the occasional cell drop from an enemy defeated by a 7th Seraph weapon is pretty good in my book. I'll take it. So now to put the whole build in action, you would start out by throwing off your arc melee, which you can hit enemies from a mile away with thanks to ball lightning. As long as they are a low to medium tier enemy, they are guaranteed to go down thanks to Thunder Coil giving you that extra damage on all arc melees. Now because you killed the enemy with a melee ability, your exotic helm perk is going to activate, making all enemies in a close proximity blind and weakened. From here you see a Warmind Cell drop thanks to Tyrant Surge, because remember you did damage to an enemy with an arc melee. You can now shoot the Warmind Cell that will indeed clear most of the ads in the immediate area, but then you realize enemies were hit from a further distance than you expected thanks to Global Reach. Now, if your melee isn't back by now, well, substitute it by getting a finisher on an enemy, which will once again cause the exotic helm perk to activate. Then throw that arc grenade, which will indeed cause enemies to be hit by it to drop a Warmind Cell, thanks to Tyrant Surge once again. Shoot the cell, then rinse and repeat depending on if you have your melee back or not. Example, right now. Now I know a lot of people will more than likely comment telling me that Monte Carlo will fix the issue if you don't have a melee charged and ready to go. And yes, you are 100% correct, but I don't use Monte that much, as well I'd rather my exotic weapon be something else. Plus the fact that your exotic helmet perk can be activated via a finisher, and then the mod Tyrant Surge can be activated by not only an arc melee, but also by an arc super or an arc grenade. So yes, our main thing here is to get our arc melee back, but if that fails, well, you have backup. It's not just, oh, I don't have an arc melee, so now this build is useless. No, that's not the case at all. You can still use the build and just, wait for your melee to come back. Now, if you want 100% just be melee only, then go ahead and just throw on Monte. It's not that big of a deal. Now, for anyone wondering, my 7th Seraph weapon of choice is the SMG acquired from the Season Pass due to it taking that ad clearing role. As you all know, I love a loadout that involves an ad clearing role weapon, a big burst of damage weapon, and then a boss damage weapon. And well, this SMG will take that ad clearing role, but that's assuming I even need one with all the Warmind Cells that are dropping and that I'm shooting. And the fact that with this SMG, I can still use Mountaintop Anarchy, which is the current PvE meta loadout. And there we go. This, in my opinion, is the best PvE build for Warlocks this season. Now I need something from you. That's right, you. Let me know in the comment section what build you've been running this season. And if you end up using the build that I showed in this video, then be sure to let me know how you like it and if you made any changes to it, as I'm curious. You can make a change that I didn't even think about that could make the build even better, and then that would be letting someone else know by just commenting it. Rest of the video is going to be me running some strikes using this build just so you can see its raw potential. So if you're curious, you can stick around for that. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to drop a like, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace. Joke, you got the sauce, bitch.